But mate, I think Whoop are sick. I think the branding is sick, and I think the subscription model is a sick idea.
What's not sick?
The fact that you have to pay monthly.
Okay.
From a consumer's perspective.
You do for the Aura though.
Well, it's only £6 now.
True.
But when you
so
first
how much is the Aura to start with?
250. But when we got ours, you didn't have to get the subscription.
True.
So that's a new thing to it. So that's why
everything's got an upgrade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same sort of principles. They just introduced this new thing on Whoop,
Yeah.
which is like a stress management thing where you can, and it's in association with Huberman as well. Andrew Huberman's involved with Whoop, which I like. And,
I like that.
And it's like you can see where your stress is at based on a few heart rate variables real time.
Yeah.
Across the last hour.
Oh, mate, it's decent.
Which is quite interesting because you can see, like, if you've been in a meeting, how that really looks in the data immediately.
Have you been looking at it?
A little bit, and it's actually quite enlightening.
Is it accurate to how you perceive it to feel?
Yeah, like coming out of the sauna, there's a level of stress according to your heart rate data. Coming out of certain meetings, you know, like you do see the stress rise up a little bit. But is it stress in terms of actually how you're feeling, positive or negative? Not really. Is it just in terms of the heart rate data? Yes, it's more about how the body is physically feeling rather than the mind.
Yeah.
That's stress is felt in both ways. But I process stress quite well mentally, but I think I therefore get physical symptoms as a result of not feeling it mentally.
What's your diet like? I'm interested because, like, you know, we all know that gut health is literally directly related to cortisol levels. So from that, how's your diet and how does that sort of look?
I just had a gut test.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick.
Have you heard of
No.
what they do?
We've literally got our bloods being done next week.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your question, my diet is good 80% of the time. The other 20%,
80-20 rule.
80-20 rule
Standard.
for diet. Like, and generally, all of my data in terms of like health checks from Bupa and bloods and gut tests, they're looking good. Like I went to get a Bupa health check. Go once a year to get a Bupa health check.
What is that health check? Is it a full body?
Yeah, so it's bloods. There's fitness tests as well, and it's kind of like your benchmarking for the year. And this year they said you are the healthiest you've ever been in every point of data. And I was like, great, I'm going to get fitter every year and healthier. And he was like, that's not going to happen. And I was like, why? Who are you to tell me that? Like, but the doctor said, you're 32. It's very unlikely that as you approach 40, not yet 8 years, right? But as you get closer, 95% of people do not get better as they get from 30 to 40. But
I'm just going to
see.
Yeah, just going to throw it out there, mate.
Yeah.
Get on the TRT.
I would do TRT, but just I think it's a big decision.
It is, you're right.
I've done TRT.
Okay.
Yeah. And it honestly, mate, I find it really difficult to wrap my head around if you weren't going to have a child and you were sort of getting to the age of like 40, why you wouldn't do it. I'm like, there's just so many benefits that outweigh, as long as you do it safely, the negatives for me, like the improving like cognitive function, that's up there for me. The improving sleep, recovery, everything. I'm just like, it's almost like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I love to train, and I love to train hard, and I love to work well. So everything you just mentioned is the big attraction of TRT.
Yeah.
But what I don't like is the fact that I don't care about what people think about it. That's not the thing for me, because it's that you have to do it forever.
Yeah.
Once you start, and that for me is a lot of pressure. I like to live my life naturally.
Yeah.
In terms of like being able to eat correct. I'm even careful with nootropics, so like Gorilla Mind,
sick,
Alpha Brain.
That's Derek's, isn't it?
Yeah,
Gorilla
Derek's,
Mind.
exactly.
Yeah.
More plates, more dates.
Yeah,
Yeah, we love them. We love them.
And that's a really good one. Alpha Brain as well. Alpha Brain Black Label. But I'm really careful with these things because I believe that there's still a side effect of nootropics. If you're raising your cognitive function too much during the week, there's going to be a downside because it's just not natural, right? So if you think you're taking nootropics every day and you're performing up here, what else is going on as a byproduct of that increase? Because there's always a reaction somewhere.
It's credit cards. It's the comparison in my head is credit cards.
Yeah.
Like you
You're
spend
borrowing.
tomorrow.
Do you know what I mean?
Tomorrow's dopamine for that day. Mate, I'm going to do a plug actually. We had a guy called Dean on from Supplements Needs. And that episode was decent.
Yeah, informative.
Very
so informative.
decent. And he knows Derek.
Okay, nice.
He's on that level of like chemists, you could put it in like that way. But mate, he was telling us about like the way he like produces supplements and like how the formulas are arrived from like natural products and stuff. And they have a product called AM Priming. You need to try it, mate. It's like such a good like cognitive level, but also not too much. There's no knock-on effect the following day.
Do you know what it's got in it?
No.
I don't know. I don't know, to be fair. I've never actually tried it.
Pure power.
Hey, it's good, but like I'm sure it's like
He loves it. This is an advert for maybe it's got some stuff in that's going to have some side effects.
no. It's like the way like he's produced it is because he used to run like a shift where he would like have to manage like £8 million worth of machinery. So like he couldn't have like an influx and a declux. So like it's good. But the natural like ingredients in it are also like there's like I think they're quite sustainable and stuff, aren't they? From what he said,
they seem sustainable.
But yeah, mate, you got to try it.
I tried the BPN one actually. Well, we both tried it, didn't we?
In a Focus or something.
That's it, Focus.
But Nick Bear.
Yeah, that's it.
The blue one.
His content's so good.
That's great.
So I'm training.
I say that it's the example of well-produced kind of day in the life content. I love his content.
It's so good. I've been really attracted to it recently because I'm training for the London Marathon, and he does so many endurance events. Yeah. Like, I think he's just done an ultra as well.
Athlete, yeah.
Such a cool athlete. But so we tried his nootropic. So
how was it?
Mate, it's amazing in the moment, but the next day is the biggest crash.
Really?
Mate,
he says he has one scoop a day.
But he's not. The
blue ice.
The blue ice. That's it.
Okay, you know when something's blue and a blue powder.
Yeah,
it's got to be dodgy.
It's gonna taste
and also,
good,
mate, do you know what's funny is whenever you scoop it and put it in, loads of smoke comes up, and you're just looking at it thinking like,
do you inhale the smoke?
We're not that bad, mate.
It's like you saw the trend of I don't know what I've got onto this, but there was a trend of like people dry scooping like pre-workout.
8 scoops, 9 scoops. That's
and people
mad.
just doing it in the gym with like the scoops, and then like people were going over and like fucking themselves up because of it, right?
Yeah.
Weird stuff goes on in the fitness game.
It is, mate.
There's when I say like inhale the smoke, there's people that definitely do.
I know,
that
yeah,
shit.
of course, mate.
Right.
I'm probably, I'm partial to that.
It's like people are like, I'm sniffing creatine. Man. You probably are. Right?
Yeah, 100%. But obviously, mate, fitness is a big part of your life at the moment, and you are training for something in particular at the moment. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I'm training for High Rocks on the 1st of May in London and raising money towards Macmillan Cancer Support.
Sick.
So I've had a close friend of mine recently and family members over the years both pass of cancer. So it's a cause close to my heart, and a lot of people have, right? It's everywhere. So it's a good cause, and I guess like the truth is I wasn't considering doing it for money, and there was a charity place on the list, and I was like, okay, let's go. We'll do that. We'll raise money towards that. And it's given me even more of a boost behind it, because once you put out publicly you're doing something like that and you're doing it for charity, it just builds more accountability.
For sure. I can. You're doing something similar at the moment as well, aren't you, Foy?
Yeah, so I'm raising money for the London Marathon.
Nice.
I don't.
It's in 2 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, I got into. Mate, I was so lucky. I actually got in the ballot.
They stole my place.
And so I had on my bucket list to run a marathon, and I did the Brighton last year. And Jack messaged me the entry form for London, and I was just like, I don't really want to do another one, but I'll enter anyway. First time, and I got on the ballot. So yeah, training's going well, but I've decided to raise money anyway for a children's hospice local to us. We actually had the CA on the podcast, amazing guy.
Yeah.
Really cool guy, but it does give you that extra boost to want to train harder and actually get it done, especially when you're raising money.
How is it going, the training?
So I was ill for a couple of weeks, so I missed a couple of long runs, but I'm relatively fit anyway. And as long as I don't know if this is bad, but as long as I beat my time from last year, I'm so focused on beating it. I feel like this might sound mad, but I genuinely feel like if I don't beat my time, it's a waste of time.
I get
I don't know if I should think like that.
I fully get it. What's the time you're going for, bro?
I'm going for 3:20.
So it's a reasonable time, and
I've now plugged it on the podcast. So
yeah,
I'm sort of accountable now.
You have to. Yeah.
I've got to do it.
Right, speak it into existence, right? Because I'm plugging the 1 hour 10 time for 1st of May.
What's the event? I've never heard of it before.
So it's 8 1 kilometre runs, and in between each 1 kilometre run, you do a strength station or a kind of like cardio intensity station. So it'll be like a ski erg for 1,000 metres. And then the second is a sled push. Third is a sled pull. So the sled push is 150 kg, which is like pretty heavy. It's twice my body weight. And that's a real full body, anaerobic, you're 180 BPM on the heart rate, it's heavy.
Yeah.
And then you've got to run straight after. So yeah, 8 1-kilometer runs with a strength in between. It lasts, average time is hour and a half. And I got 120 in Barcelona. I'm going for 110 now. And then in November, I'm doing the London one again. And I'm going to go for, I want to go for sub 110, 105. But that's like getting to like what the top athletes are getting. They're getting like 57s, 58s, 1 hour.
Why that event? I've never actually heard of the Hyrox before, so why specifically that one?
I think I've done marathons, half Ironman, mountain runs, Tough Mudders, Spartan races, and this just, it interweaved everything I was doing at this moment, which is like being cardio fit, which makes me feel really, really healthy and good, and I love running in the sun, right? And then being strong and being aesthetically like looking good, right? So it's like everything all in one, being strong, having some aesthetic, and being cardio fit. And it's like that the training's perfect. You can do all of it.
Mate, I rate it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want to ask, you know, you briefly touched on it. You said about your friend passing away. Obviously, like, firstly, fucking hell, sorry to hear about that. It sounds really heavy. But with you running and sort of doing this event with him in mind, has it give you like a second win with it?
Yeah. I would say that I'm already we was talking a lot about this kind of this thing of pushing yourself to your max. So I did the Hyrox in Barcelona with 2 other people, 2 friends. And tell me if you've experienced this, because when I was doing it with them and we started at the same time, there was a point where I overtook Miles, and then Miles overtook me, and then I overtook him at the end. And every time we were in each other's sights, we kind of said that made us push a little bit extra. You kind of got a second wind. But it was very hard on our own to raise our own level when we just thought we were on our own before we couldn't see each other, to keep that level of intensity. But when you know you've got like you're doing it for charity, or there's people watching, or your friend is competing, it's a whole new level of intensity you can muster. And I don't know where that comes from inside. I haven't worked that out. I wish I could kind of generate that more on my own. And that's like a real challenge, and something I'm trying to work more on, because that's where you get like those extra results and that extra push.
Sure, mate, I'm completely with you. You need to be able to compete with someone. I did a half marathon last year, Bournemouth half marathon, and mate, I had an awful one. I ran a really, really good time the week before.
On a treadmill, mate.
On a treadmill, yeah. It was on a treadmill. It was on a
Sorry,
treadmill.
I had to call him out.
Yeah. It was. I'll give you that.
Fine. I read a study that treadmills are harder.
Yeah. Mate, it was a sick time, to be fair.
To be fair, it was
What, you
rapid.
run a half marathon on a treadmill?
Yeah.
I thought you said a marathon.
Oh, no. Yeah. But then I got ill.
Okay.
And then come to the day, and I spoke to someone who's been a really good like coach for me in the past. And I said, mate, I'm feeling really ill. What shall I do? And he was like, mate, what have you got? And I said, I've got electrolytes, got this, got that. He said, take half a modafinil. So I said, fuck it, all right. So I took half a modafinil before I started. And then he said, take another half just in case halfway through. So started off, mate. I was focused, dialed in. I was like, I'm running sick. Like, got to like halfway, started feeling like really nauseous and like just like nasty, feeling proper sick. And obviously, modafinil had like worn off. So like, mate, I get to this point and I'm like, I feel awful, but at times looking quite healthy. And basically, I end up getting in sort of a battle with a vegan runner. Because there's teams, and there was this vegan runner, and he overtook me, I overtook him, he overtook me, I overtook him, and I knew he was thinking exactly what I was thinking.
This is good, yeah.
Yeah, like we both needed it in that moment. So for about a quarter of the race, whilst I was feeling sick, we were just battling it out. And then after like the quarter mile, like sort of went out, started feeling better, just picked up the pace. But like, you need that like competition with people.
Healthy competition, that's what it is.
Exactly that.
It's almost like silent communication whilst you're running against each other. Like, I know you and you know, we know what each other are thinking.
Yeah, I had that in a half marathon I did in February in Richmond Park. Same thing.
Yeah.
Dude that was running the similar pace, and we just kept, you need that.
Mate, I'm interested, obviously. Like,
that modafinil strategy is mad.
I know, yeah.
You should never change something on race day.
I know, yeah.
You should have been modafinil during training. I'm not recommending that, by the way, but use modafinil to run training. Like, I've never heard that strategy, but I've taken modafinil and I already get a kind of crash after I do a race. Generally, like I've managed it a lot better, but I don't know if this happens to you, but I get where I'm using caffeine, I'm pumped up on race day, I'm full of adrenaline, and I'm pushing to my absolute best. It's kind of like a period of crash after. The dopamine depletion is like, and then I'm like, I have to be mindful of the stuff I eat after. I have to be mindful of the company I keep, just to keep the energy and the mood correct, because it can turn and it can be kind of like a kind of, this doesn't feel good, almost like a hangover, like a kind of like where you've hit the booze too hard or you party too hard and you're like, this don't feel good.
Mate, I'm completely with you. And how weird is it, by the way, at the end of the marathon? I don't know. I had it at Brighton Marathon. I don't know if it's at every marathon, but there's like a pint station, and people get a pint.
No, it's straight after they hand out tinnies.
At the finish.
And I'm like, oh, maybe not. Bottle of water.
Who wants that after running a marathon? It's the worst.
Tough Mudder, you get over the finish line, they just hand you a beer.
Oh, mate,
like
it's weird.
Bit of double dehydration.
Yeah, mate.
But I've done that in the past, right? I've finished the race and I've just then boozed heavy and gone out for hours after, and I'm telling you that next day is the most painful that I've ever felt. The muscles.
You say that, right? And I'm sat here saying that I didn't take the tinny when I finished the Brighton Marathon, but so I'm a big Liverpool fan, and last year when I ran the Brighton Marathon, it was Liverpool City, bit of a title decider, and it started at 4:30, wherever it was, finished the marathon at like 1, and I went to the pub with my dad, my brother and whatnot to watch it. And I thought I'll have a beer. I had a couple of beers. I ended up having like maybe like 5 or 6 beers. So I was like,
it's a bit of a stint, that.
It is a bit of a stint. I didn't plan on it, and I woke up the next day and I was fucked. Like marathon hungover and alcohol hungover, and I also had to drive home. It was terrible.
Yeah, imagine what that's doing to your body, right? Like the dehydration of the marathon, and the alcohol together, and the broken sleep, and your muscles don't repair when you've got alcohol in your system. Like the protein synthesis does not work as well. So
you see it on your Whoop, didn't you? Because we see it on an Aura, mate.
When you see the Whoop, you get 1% after. I'm in the red. I'm like skiing. I've had like 4 or 5 beers, wake up. And I mean like 4 or 5, or let's say 2 or 3 beers, and you get like 2%.
Mate, it's...
I can't ski. I've got 2%. You can.
Mate, it's so annoying if I like drink and I look at my Aura score and it's just down by like 30 points, maybe even 35, 40 points.
I talked to a few coaches about this over the years, and coaches like Dan from Perform 365, Dan Lawrence, who works with a lot of the pro athletes and boxers, and we talk a lot about the data's great in Whoop and Aura, but it also has the potential for someone that's got a perfectionist mindset to ruin their day. And actually, they don't prescribe Auras and Whoops for every athlete, even though they would like to, because they know that if someone gets a 50% score when they're actually feeling good, that will change their mindset by such a small percent that they just won't perform at their best. So they actually have to take them away from certain athletes.
It's the placebo of it.
The placebo, the nocebo.
I have that. Yeah. So I used to check the score first thing in the morning. And I'd wake up, and you sort of know when you get up how you feel. I'd wake up and I'd be like, this is a guaranteed 90 readiness for the Aura. And I'd get up and 40. It's like 76. I'd be like, even if it was that much lower, I'd be like, oh, I feel like shit.
Mate, I'll go for a tactical nap. Like if like my score's too low, lunchtime comes as a pod being like upstairs, I'll go for a tactical nap just to raise the score.
I've had to just stop checking it in the morning now. Just go off how I'm feeling, and then later in the day I'll check it. And then only just for like a point of view that I can monitor a little bit. So I think
I like that strategy.
What did I do like last night? Oh, I went to bed at X time. When did I eat? Like, it's taught me so much about my sleep pattern. The sleep
pattern thing is why I started wearing it again, because I wasn't sleeping as well. But I think in that regard, if you have a Whoop or an Aura and you get a bad score that day, take it with a pinch of salt, carry on as normal. If you get up the next day and you've got a bad score again, you might want to look into it. If it's gone down again the day after, there are probably some physiological signs that you're not working as well. And a lot of the time, if you've got a resilient mindset, you can probably just carry on. And that's the problem, I think. If you've got a strong mindset, you'll just carry on anyway. And it takes a lot longer for the physical symptoms to show in the mind. And then all of a sudden you're beaten up and you're overtrained, but you should have listened to the signs a bit earlier. And I think that's what Whoop and Aura gives you a thing to be able to do. It's like spot the physical symptoms earlier before you actually really start feeling them. They start kicking in. But like I think we're all quite similar in this regard. You're just like, no. Yes. I'm going to carry on today anyway. Or if you want to do something, you're you're going to do it. But it's if it continues.
Yeah.
I always say.
It's like I have an online coach, Lou Blackmore. That's a plug as well. Great coach, unbelievable. But like we look at the data on like a weekly basis,
yes,
rather than daily, and then we adjust based on like the weekly performance as well. And that has helped me in terms of like looking at things from like a holistic viewpoint rather than like a daily viewpoint. But it's still like even that dictates my mood to a certain degree, especially if I've been like overtraining, for example. But mate, I'm obviously interested. Like this is your sport now in terms of what you're doing. But what was the first sport you started playing?
Mate, the truth is, I was not good at sport at school.
Really?
I was the kid that didn't want to play rugby because my ears were cold.
Curveball, mate.
I did not put you down as one of those.
No.
I had to build the resilience over the years, but I was a fucking puss at school.
Yeah. What were you like at school?
I got on well with people. Like I was a class clown at school. Diagnosed with ADHD at 6. And
that's mad, by the way.
Yeah,
at 6.
Moved about. Yeah, like my parents were like, something's wrong with this guy. Get him to all the clinics in London. Yeah, and they took me to this clinic in Surrey, and they was like, "Yep, ADHD." I didn't even get through the door. They were like, "ADHD." As I walked through, it wasn't quite like that, but over a series of tests that you do, like, yeah, I had ADHD from early, right?
What were your symptoms of ADHD? Was it just
absolute loudness and distraction at that age? Completely uncontrollable as a child. Wouldn't listen to instructions or order. I felt sorry for looking back for my parents because of that, man, because I caused them a lot of trouble. I'm their only child, and I caused them enough trouble because of that. But so, yeah, I was active. I wasn't like an overweight child, but I just didn't want to play sports in a team. I don't know why that was. And I've always kind of focused more on insular activities. But am I a team player at work and with the office? Yeah, I love the team. I love working in the team. I love working with people. But am I also like a lone ranger in some aspects? Yes. But that was what I was like at school. So yeah, I didn't like football, couldn't kick a ball. Thanks, Dad. That was your fault. You didn't teach me how to play football. So the kids left me out. And rugby, yeah, my ears were cold. Didn't want to wear a scrum hat. I think I wore a scrum hat one day when I didn't need to. I was on the wing and everyone's like,
laughing at you.
Why are you wearing a scrum hat? Like, so yeah. But the first thing I got into was actually parkour.
Really?
At 15, 16.
Nice.
When Jump London landed on TV, which was Sebastian Foucon come over from France and trained with a load of UK parkour athletes, and they were training up South Bank. So I was like, right, I'm going to go on the Urban Free Flow website forum. This was back in the day when forums were how you would communicate, with a little bit of MSN Messenger.
Old school, MSN in the mix.
Yeah, and you used to have those mad MSN names with all the emojis in.
Oh, I used to love that as well.
Yeah, man.
And do you remember when you were like chatting to girls on MSN when you were younger and you used to like play off their minds and go offline?
Yeah.
And then you'd go back online and they'd see you go online, you'd be like, I know I've got it now.
The old school tactics, right? Yeah.
Oh, mate. And then webcams came in. I remember that as well.
You used to have like the little Logitech webcams, like, and it used to fall off the top of the monitor, right?
Oh,
crazy times.
Mad.
So yeah, I went on the forum for the parkour forum.
What drew you to parkour, by the way? Because it is just a random sport.
It is a random sport, but it fitted with my personality type, which was kind of like, I used to climb about a lot at school. I used to jump about, and I always used to try and find like trees to climb, whatever else. When that come about, I thought that fits with me. I can do that. I did a bit of like you do different sports at school, a bit of gymnastics here or there. I always used to be quite good at it, quite springy, quite good on my feet. So I just thought that's me. I can do that. I did it for 5 years.
So tell us about it. So you go to the forum first meetup.
Yeah, saw people training in South Bank. Went up to South Bank on my own at like 15. My dad let me go up there. He was always like building the confidence in me. Off you go, son.
Sick.
Go up there, right? My mum's like, are you sure? You don't want to let him go? But went up there and saw people training in South Bank, and then started joining in with them, right? And then every weekend I'd go up there, meet some of the same lads that were training, and we just train every weekend. And that went on for like 5 odd years.
And what's the culture like in free running? Because like I don't know why, but I'm like picturing it kind of similar to like skateboarding.
Yeah, it's very chill. It's very like fuck authority. We don't need money in life. We're chill. All we need is movement. Yeah. Which worried my dad for a little bit of time, and I think my mum, because I was like, I don't need a job. I've got parkour. I don't need the capitalist world. I'm cool. I'm free.
Yeah.
I'm a free runner.
See.
they're like, and at this time I got kicked out of school at 17 as well. So at the same time, I'm like going through all this madness of like doing parkour. I've just found the going out life and the drinking. I've been thrown out of school. I'm saying I don't need a job, I'm going to be free. And my parents are probably thinking like, he's back again.
It's a difficult age though, isn't it? 16, 17, sort of 18, like finding a bit more about who you are or what direction you want to go in. What did you get thrown out of school for?
ADHD behaviours, basically.
Yeah.
That just like playing up.
Just playing up. Just I spent more time in detention than I did in the classroom, more time standing outside the classroom than I did in the classroom. When I was in the classroom, I was just trying to be the class clown. And
why do you think that was? Why were you trying to be a class clown?
People would encourage a lot, and I would buy into that, and they knew they could encourage me.
Yeah.
And so it was like a kind of circle of I'd do things, get validation for doing it with laughter, and which when you're a kid at school, all sorts of things are going on to validate your behaviours, whether that's you're good at sport. If you're the class clown and people are laughing at you, laughter's a positive emotion in a lot of aspects. So you kind of be like, oh, I'll get more laughs.
You're getting attention, basically.
You're getting attention. So that's what I bought into. And I'm not saying it was all their fault, right? Because I was creating my own problems. And I'd just do silly stuff, man, like where I was quite good at jumping around and doing backflips and stuff. I'd be climbing around the school doing backflips. They said, you got to stop backflipping in the playground, it's dangerous. I was like, I'm doing as many backflips as I want every lunchtime. So I tried to 2-footed jump over the reception desk one day, missed the reception desk a little bit, clipped my feet, knocked all the registers into the receptionist. And the headmaster's office is next door to the reception. He's like, come in here, what are you doing, son?
You're just getting carried away, aren't you?
Yeah. And he's like, if this behaviour carries on,
yeah,
you're gonna be asked to leave the school. At the same time, we're going out partying a lot. We found like clubs around London, fake IDs at 17.
Standard.
Yeah, European driving licenses with no holograms bought off the internet off some dodgy site. Ridiculous stuff, right? I don't know how we got into clubs with these. And then we're coming back into school, blasted after going clubbing on a weekend, and you can't handle it at that age. I mean, it's hard to handle a lot of this shit at a lot of ages, right? But
for sure,
just found that life, and then they were just like, you're not working, it's not working here. They sent a letter to my home and said, you got to leave the school, which was pretty painful, because just after that, my parents' 2008 financial crash, and they lost their home. My dad lost his job, and just shit really hit the fan in that moment.
What was your dad doing? What profession was he in?
My dad's an old school printer, so like a print salesman.
Yeah,
he worked his way up from like the print floor to sales director to eventually being director of a company and a partner in a company. Traditional print with the printing presses, and the company that he worked for didn't get into digital print. So
I've heard this story so many times with printers. I know someone who was a printer, and that the exact stages happened to them. They didn't move into digital print, and then following that, their revenue just declined year on year to the point where basically the company had to shut down. Yeah,
they're almost like deluded that things are going to change, and this is happening right now with AI.
Oh yeah, mate, 100%.
Yeah, people don't understand how this technology is going to change everything. It already is changing everything.
Mate, do you use ChatGPT?
Absolutely.
Mate,
we're using it across the board.
It's literally saved me so much time with our write-ups for the podcast, mate. These take an hour, literally 5 minutes now.
It's true.
And do you know what you can do with ChatGPT, which you say the write-ups for the podcast? You probably, if you haven't tried this, it's a good one to try, is take a page and a half of your own words that you've spoken into a document. So it's important to speak it because it really gets your right tone that you speak in. And then you say to ChatGPT, before you get it to write anything, you say, analyze my tone and then write X for me. And it writes in your tone rather than in its weird ChatGPT way.
Mate, we did it at work. Yeah? So I did it at work with an email sequence. So we used the customer transcript, and I was like, write an email sequence based on this customer's emotion, write it using their basically tone in terms of how we would appeal to them. Then we found the pain points through ChatGPT when it searched the web. And then before you know it, I had an email sequence, 10 emails in about 2 hours, mate. And they were decent as well.
And they only needed a little bit of amending, right?
Hardly anything, mate. Yeah. And I was reading it, I was going, this is better than what I could write, like significantly better as well.
Yeah, because it understands the English language in a way that, like the smartest human would. It understands the structure, the prose, how to use grammar, how to put words in the correct order to get the maximum. You can say, like, write this in the most persuasive way possible.
Yeah.
And it looks at like it's millions of data points for persuasion, and then it gives you the most persuasive version. You can say, put more emotion into this.
Mate, I know.
You can say, make it a bit more direct. Like it's if you are struggling that day to find the right words to say, ChatGPT is your ally.
It's incredible.
You know?
I literally write, after every time I do it, I'd write, make this more persuasive using persuasive language and use a softer tone. And then I would just do that twice, maybe 3 times, and it would improve it until I looked at it and I was like, you know, that's actually a pretty decent email.
But imagine when, and people will think I'm crazy for saying this, but I'm saying it because this is exactly what's going to happen. Imagine when you can connect your brain directly to the AI using a brain interface, like Elon Musk is working on Neuralink. It's inevitable this is going to happen. And you can connect your brain directly to AI and interface with it in microseconds to get answers from a super smart human, which is ChatGPT. Yeah. And by the time the brain interface is really ready, say in 3 years, probably 3-4 years, Neuralink's already working for Elon Musk. The AI is going to be that much smarter. But at that point, we're faced with a choice, because do you want to level up your ability? And you will kind of be forced to, not by the establishment, but it will be that choice of, if you don't have a brain interface to connect with AI,
you're a chimp.
You will be left behind.
It's true. You're right.
Like, so the government, people are like, oh, the government are going to force AI. It's like, no, they're not. They're just going to make it almost impossible to not have one. Imagine if you didn't have a smartphone now.
It's mad.
It's been like, I don't even know how I'd live without a smartphone. Yeah. I find as well, there's some older guys where we work at the office, and they're so reluctant to integrate with any form of technology whatsoever.
Just like my dad.
It just makes me, I don't know whether it's because they're resisting it because they haven't grown up with it and they don't understand it maybe, but so many old boys at the office, and, you know, people even working on site for us, they're like, they don't want to integrate with it. And it's just like, I don't understand why you don't want to do it, because it makes everyone's life so much easier.
My biggest concern with the AI integration that you've just mentioned there would be government interference. So I would be very cautious of that.
Of course, right? Like the same stuff that goes on with smartphones now. It's like, when I started building the Sole Supplier back in the day, I used to know Google like the back of my hand and how to rank stuff in Google. Google used to be a much more authentic way to search. You used to be able to search a question in Google and get like genuine answers from different communities, sort of third-party independent websites, some mainstream sites, some forums, and the results used to be much more varied and interesting. Now, Google is much more mainstream, much more censored, and you don't get that community kind of all aspects of an answer. You get, this is what the mainstream narrative is.
100%.
And so that will happen with AI. So then, but then if it's connected to your brain directly, how the fuck do you discern that this information is not correct? Because it's just, it's going to be an insane moment.
Yeah, like, it is. And unfortunately, it's inevitable.
Yeah. It is inevitable. So it's not me just saying it. It's like, this is going to happen.
It's happening.
Because people want that level up. It's like we're talking about nootropics at the start. People want little levels up in whatever way they can get. TRT. This is just the other thing. It's like, oh, if you connected your brain to AI, well, yeah.
You're going to be a superhuman, though.
Yeah.
That's the evolution of the humans, which like is mad.
And what about when it understands how it can make you stronger in a different way? Like, you've only got to put an AI to work on the biology of the body, right? In different areas of science, and eventually it's gonna figure out solutions to increase strength, to increase your cognitive ability, to help you focus for hours every day.
Yeah.
And then you're going to need like the AI to help you focus, because there's a dude that can focus for 10 hours solidly, and you're like, I can't do 20 minutes.
I know.
It's going to be crazy.
It is, mate. And who knows how far it will go. How are you using AI at the moment with the business then?
Like, the easiest way to answer that is just try and use it for everything. Like, if you've got a task on your list that needs thinking about, or it needs research, or it needs time, just go through your tasks list and try and understand how you can give each task to the AI. And the biggest hindrance for a lot of people is the input. And you spoke a lot about that there, Jack, about like how to input and how to say things to it to get the best answers. You have to get used to talking to it. In the same way that you said, like, you filmed a lot of podcasts before you actually did the real things, right? Because you wanted to get used to the conversations, the questions. Same with AI. Unless you get really comfortable with talking to it and using it, you're never going to truly know its power and what to ask it. So the answer is, like, I'm using it for so many different things, but I'm still not thinking about it enough. And I look at, and I'm like, why haven't I used ChatGPT for that task? It's an easy one to do. Everything from like summarizing legal documents, making people's Slack messages more concise, coming up with some marketing ideas, using different captions for Instagram hooks that are more persuasive. We're building something at the minute which will be able to analyze social posts better using Google Vision API as well. But then this is going to get built, so I don't know really why. But lots of different ways, man.
For sure.
Like coding as well.
Oh, mate, 100%.
I can code now using ChatGPT. I was showing Nick, our CTO, something I did in an hour. How I installed JavaScript, I installed a library, I got it to read an Excel file, I got that Excel file sent to ChatGPT to then give me insights on the Excel file. I did that just asking ChatGPT how to help me.
And you're a non-technical
I am not a developer.
founder.
Yeah,
mate.
And I did that in 1 hour.
It's nuts, mate. I went over to the development team in the last place I was with, and I caught the developer on ChatGPT. And I say, you coding with it? He goes, whoa. I said, you definitely are, mate. I can see it in your face. And he was like, yeah, well, we are starting to use it now. And I was like, how much time does that save? And he was like, well, we have to touch it up. We have to tidy it up. But in terms of the basis, like, you can do, like, you know, a lot of work in a fraction of the time.
Yeah, I think we're going to go from a point of needing, like, say, in development, a team of 20 developers to a team of 5 that know how to use AI correctly and develop well. And humans will be there to interface with AI for a long time. I don't know how long it will take to get to the point where, like true, say in development's case again, where those jobs just become obsolete, because there's always needs to be someone to interface. It's kind of like the AI is not going to be smart enough for a long time to get someone's vision out of their head in exactly the way that it's in their head.
Yeah.
That's a different level of understanding. I don't, yeah.
Do you think it's weird, both of you, that AI has happened in our lifetimes?
When you say weird, do you mean
like
just surprising?
Do you think it's coincidental that it's happened in our lifetime? And I know that's a deep question, but like I can't help but personally feel like the timing of it is just like it's too coincidental. Do you know what I mean?
Are you saying, like, is it a coincidence that we got born in the time that it got brought about, or are you saying, like, is it?
I'm saying we're in a simulation.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. Like, that's what I'm hinting towards.
Right, I see.
What do you think?
But then straight away, that now that AI is here in this manner, that theory is validated even more.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Because you can see the future of where it can go. Where so Nvidia, the graphics company, have just released a new chip. And this chip can be linked together with multiple chips in this crazy way. And I was just watching a video on it last night. You know what the YouTube algorithm's like? You stumble across like some of the craziest shit. But I've been watching AI stuff, and Nvidia have released this chip, which with the ability to just link all the chips together, the same chip, and build a supercomputer, a quantum computer, if you have the money and the space, just with these graphics cards to power AI. So what they're now predicting is this is like now going to drastically increase the rate of AI's acceleration, because they've just made it like 10x more possible to be able to have such little space and power together, which do I think is coincidental that it's happened in our lifetime? If you look back 3-4 years when we had COVID, or when that stuff was going on, there were conspiracies, yeah, not conspiracies, basically a lot of them have come true.
All of them.
That we will move to a cashless society, run with central bank digital currencies,
CBDC,
that will be powered by AI. And all of a sudden now, 3 years on, the AI is here, the central bank digital currencies are almost here.
And cashless is nearly here as well.
And cashless is nearly here, and the economies are in a worse state than ever. So it almost looks like the predictions or the conspiracies are coming true. But it is coincidental. Yeah. Almost like it's been in the making for a long time.
We all know the score.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we all know the score. But mate, yeah, it's super interesting, obviously, like how you're going to be utilising it in the business. But if we just pull back for a second, obviously, you start the free running, kicked out of school. What happens next?
From the age of 17 to 24, I had 10 different jobs.
10
different jobs, from working in the local bar in the gym, to doing the pot wash in the Harvester, to selling newspaper ads, to working in the Yellow Pages, knocking on kebab shop owners' doors, selling them digital marketing. Like, I did everything, man. I would walk out of jobs because I thought I knew better. I would walk out of jobs because I thought their leadership was awful. Some of these things were true, but ultimately I just had a really distracted mindset, and I had something within me that was telling me, you can do more. You don't deserve this job, or they don't deserve you.
Where do you think that come from, that urge to think that you deserve better?
Mate, I'm literally going through something similar over the past couple of years, and like I find it so difficult to even explain why I feel like that. But like, I always want more.
But it's just like innate. It's just within. It's just, to answer your question, Callum, I don't know really. It's like, I had it from when I was really young. I always felt like, it sounds weird, but I felt like there was something within me that was just like a desire, a burning thing of like, you need to do something good in your life. You're the chosen one. It's like some arrogance.
Mate, I have it.
Not. It's just there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance.
Mate, yes. I know that feeling you're talking about, the innate feeling. It's almost internal, and like it sounds arrogant, but like you just know. You just know that there's more to it. There's something bigger for you.
Yeah, and it's not even in the sense of financial or monetary at the time. It was just like, there's more to life.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. There's something out there that you want to get from this world that you need to. So, because people could perceive that wrong and just be like, oh, what? So you just knew you wanted to make money? It's like, no, it's just. So what I think it translates into now is like the gap of that feeling and what reality is being the best version of myself. That's what I was always looking for. And it's kind of like, I knew what I wanted to be inside, or I knew what I needed to be or wanted to be. And ultimately it's just the true version of myself, like the ultimate version of me. And as I got older, I've managed to get closer to that in terms of like the way I conduct my life, to feel good, to feel good, look good, and look after people around me. Don't get me wrong, it's still like a roller coaster of doing well and not doing as well. But I think that's what it truly is. It's like, because when you feel like that, you can really do anything that you want. You want to learn a new skill, you want to build a business, you want to go after high rocks, you want to film content. When you're in that state, you can go after anything.
You could take on the world, mate.
Yeah, because you've just built that resilience and you've got that confidence to do it. And I think that's what it truly was when I was younger. Because the reality for me when I was younger was just like, shit was all over the shop. I had ADHD when I was a kid. I was distracted. I couldn't do well at school. So it was like, reality was just, this is crazy. But in my head, I'm like, oh, this doesn't make sense.
How does that feel in that moment? Because it's like such a conflict of interest, right? You know there's more for you, but you can't distinctively put your finger on what that means. So like, obviously at that age, you must have felt like quite uneasy or lost.
Yeah, it's painful. Yeah. I had a lot of pain when I was in school generally, and I walked past the playground with a few friends the other day. It was my missus and my best mate and his lady, and we were walking. They've just had a child. They were like, "Oh, it's going to be so nice when Jessie goes into school." And I was like, "Oh, the playground," and it gave me bad memories of like, and my mate's missus Sophie was like. Or Dan was saying that she was like, oh, I love school, you know, I have such good memories. And we were talking about how her memories were good, and me and Dan's were like, no, we don't really like that. It didn't bring us back to a good place. So yeah, I think some people have this perception of school, don't they? Where I'd love to go back. It seemed easy.
The thing is, I'm not gonna lie, I love school.
Yeah.
Because like I think of it, I went to an all boys school, so I literally spent all day with a group of mates just fucking around.
Yeah.
And like when I look back now, I'm thinking like that was so fun. Like you're going through life at the moment, like you said, it's incredibly complex life, and you're like making different decisions, doing this, doing that. And I'm thinking back at school, it was so much easier. Like, you're so free, you just do whatever you want.
That's the allure, isn't it? Of like, yeah, because there's a lot of responsibility, a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
I think what comes with wanting to be your best self, when you're trying to get there, is a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure on yourself. But it's that saying of pressure makes diamonds.
Pressure builds diamonds,
Yeah,
for sure.
And then it becomes easy. You know, when you're learning to drive a car, at the start it's overwhelming and you don't know what you're doing, and you're doing it in a really crazy way. You're grabbing onto the steering wheel and you're stalling the car. Eventually it just becomes automatic. It becomes unconscious. And it's the same with being your best self or trying to get there. At first you're training, you're trying to eat well, you're trying to get the right sleep, you're trying to treat people around you with respect, right? And there's moments where it's going really well, but then there's moments where it's all in a pickle.
Yeah. Mate, it's unconscious competence.
Unconscious competence.
Yeah. Mate, I've literally last week fallen off. And we were talking about this on the way up. Like, I've fallen off this week, eating shit for the whole week, packed on a nasty bit of weight, poor sleep, just poor everything. And I said to Cal, like, I feel off centre. I said, and I hate that feeling.
Because you know what it was like to feel
optimum.
Exactly.
Or trying to be as optimum as possible.
Yeah. So me and Dan discussed this a lot. So I've done a lot of periods of time where I've been off the booze, right? Completely stone cold sober and training and working hard. And in those moments where I kind of reach that, it feels like a superhero when you say, you reach your mental prime, you know, it's like that, right? You reach this level where you're just momentum. You're coming in every day, you're getting up, you jump out of bed. It's fucking great.
Buzzing, mate.
Yeah, you're buzzing. And when you know what that feels like, when you fall off, the fall off's even more painful.
Oh, mate, it's
you're like,
horrible.
I'm eating Domino's again, staying up till 1 a.m. Why am I
getting
doing
up at
this?
8:30? Like, what am I, a fucking bum?
Yeah, and you just feel it. You look more tired, and you're just like. But I think that's what people need to be able to then, because the windows get shorter. I've found the more you say, let's use the drinking example. The more you get off the booze, and then you go back to trying to be your optimum, and you keep doing that, you can then cut down the amount of time it takes to go back.
Yeah.
You might then end up drinking for a shorter period of time, and you can get back to it quicker because you know the patterns and the triggers that trigger both, and you stop the downward spiral before it gets too far.
Yeah.
And that can be the danger, right? When people get into that and they've never really done it before, they find themselves 1 year later at the real bottom of that spiral, hitting rock bottom and going like, I don't know how to get out of here.
In the trenches, mate.
In the trenches, but the real game is keep doing that over 10 years. And you'll be able to get yourself back up the spiral a lot quicker.
How weird do you find it as well that booze is like one of the only drugs where it's frowned upon to not do? Like, you'll say to like a group of your mates, like, nah, I don't fancy drinking. And they're like, that's weird. Yeah. But if I said to my mates, like, I don't fancy doing some cocaine, they're like, yeah, do you know what, mate? Fair enough. Like, don't do that. It's terrible. But like booze, they're like, that's fucking weird.
What do you mean? They all would, to be fair.
Some of them might not, but
yeah, society's crazy in that way, right? Yeah. Like, booze is the best marketing scheme ever. And ultimately there's a lot of people out there that think that the government and the establishment have got our best interests at heart. But look at how much they're marketing booze or have done over the years, and look at how it's brainwashed into society to make you think that, like you say, it's normalised. Yeah. Look at how your friends frown upon you because of the programming they've had for booze. Some of them, come on, just have one. No, it's like, it's not normal to drink every day, or it's not normal if you've got certain expectations of what you want from life to poison your body regularly with alcohol or any substance, right? Because it's just detrimental to your life. But the brainwashing of society is real.
It is real. And mate, honestly, I found myself so deep in the rabbit holes that I'm only really realising the magnitude of that programming. And it stems not only, say, for example, in like entertainment industries, but like the food industry. Like, when I start reading about that, or I start watching like certain content specified in regards to that, I'm like, this is fucked. I'm like, this is awful. Like, how are they pushing like certain products which are like, you know, tailored to literally heart disease at the forefront of the market? And I'm just like, this is not normal. But like simultaneously to that, it is just the programming, right? Obviously, mate, I'm interested. The free running, was that the initial spark for streetwear for you in terms of like clothing? Does it come with any sort of direct link with like any sort of certain styles, any sort of, I guess, alignment with like streetwear at all or anything like that?
Not really. Like my love for streetwear and trainers came from listening to hip hop growing up.
Oh, okay,
I
cool.
had the Marshall Mathers LP when it first came
What a
out.
great,
Unbelievable album.
amazing.
Dr. Dre 2001, like that kind of era. And yeah, parental advisory, explicit lyrics on the CD case. My mum was like, "You're not having that." And Dan's mum, who was a bit more strict, was like, "You're definitely never listening. We're never buying you that." My dad was like, "Here you go, son."
Nice.
Thanks, Dad. Yeah,
Hey,
let's rap all the lyrics to Marshall Mathers. and we had this machine in Dan's house with a microphone, and we used to rap the lyrics at the top of our voices.
Sick.
All the swearing, explicit version. So that was where that love came from. Everyone used to wear trainers and Air Forces. It's like you see Nelly in like EI, and he's wearing Air Forces, and like there's all these old rappers that used to wear them.
Yeah.
That's where that came from.
Oh, mate, we were the generation after. So it was like G-Unit, 50 Cent.
Hey, some of the best.
Yeah, obviously for me, like G-Unit and
Yeah.
50 Cent is my favourite of all time.
Yeah. Air Forces were a big shoe for a lot of them.
They were huge.
Yeah.
And the G-Unit sneakers.
Yeah.
Do you remember those?
What were
Yeah.
those? What-
Oh, mate, G-Unit did a collab with, I think it was Reebok at the time.
Okay, yeah.
And they brought out their own sneakers and like their own clothes and stuff. But like they were just like the sickest shoe from my perspective back then.
Yeah.
But they were so exclusive because you could only get them in the States, I think.
I've never heard of that. Why? Actually, quick question for you. Why do you think the Air Force One has been so timeless? Because, like you said, back then it was a shoe, and it still is. Like, how is it so timeless?
The Air Force One's timeless because it's just a simple structure. It made your foot look good. It was comfortable. It wasn't expensive. I say was, right? Because now it's a bit more expensive. It used to be £50 or like $70, whereas Jordans at the time used to be a lot more money. So it was like your cut down runner, not a runner technically, but it has air technology in. So I just think it ticked a lot of boxes for people who weren't looking to wear a Jordan. It could carry a smarter vibe and a more casual vibe. It's the perfect crossover shoe, I think. It just catered to so many people.
Yeah,
Men, women, smart, casual. You know, you could wear it everywhere. Couldn't wear it for running though, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if it's a runner.
No,
It's so
but
uncomfortable.
it had air technology in. You know, it was the Air Force was first made for basketball. Like the higher Air Force, made by Bruce Kilgore, was made for basketball. You had 6 NBA players wearing it at the time because it was the first shoe with air technology in the back of the heel. So it was originally at one time made for like running about the court. And how mad is that?
They must be so heavy, like to be running around in.
That's what I mean.
Mate,
Yeah.
obviously like technology with shoes has like dramatically increased. Have you did you read what's the shoe book you mentioned to me before, Cal? The one that you made me read, the Nike one.
Shoe Dog.
The
Shoe Dog.
That's
Have
an
you-
incredible book.
Yeah.
Read some of it, yeah.
What did you think of it?
Yeah, so far so good. I never started reading past the like first 2 chapters. But everyone says good things about that book.
Mate, it's a really sick book, to be fair.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to be in the shoe industry to enjoy it. It's just like a
Exactly that.
general story of like inspiration.
Inspiration and just constantly going at something because that's your passion. But yeah, man, like that for me was a big thing, the shoes. And it was a staple of an outfit for me. It was like, I need to buy trainers with my hard-earned commission. My dad was like, stop spending your money on shoes, you're wasting your money. That's what he always used to say. I didn't have a plan at the time, but I acted like I did. I'd buy like a new pair every week once I started earning some good commissions in sales. And that then developed into like the sneakerhead bug, where I just want to get more because it like complemented the outfit. I was getting recognition for the shoes. People were like, where'd you get them? And then that knowledge grew. I knew where to get all of the high heat ones. I knew how I could get 2, 3, 4 pairs, and then I could wear a few for myself and sell a few.
Is that where it first started?
So that was it, buying and reselling. At the same time, I had a lot of knowledge on the web. I was reading books about the internet since I was younger. I was always a bit of a reader, which is mad considering I had that hyperactive personality, because how was I reading? To be honest, I wasn't reading the books through. I'd like flick through books in like and I think a lot of people should do this. If you buy a book, just read bits that interest you. If it's a self-development book, obviously not a story, right? Don't just go to like chapter 6 and try and get the story. But if it's a self-development business book, they're made for like picking up, flicking through. You don't need to read them back to back, because a lot of the good stuff for a lot of these books is in the first 30%. So I just read books in that way. Just get little bits about SEO and web. And then I knew a lot about the shoes. I knew a lot about the web. And then it was just a match made in heaven. I was like, I'm going to start a WordPress website that can help people find the shoes like I was.
How did that idea originate? Because obviously it's quite a big thing to put 2 and 2 together like that.
Yeah.
So like was there like a penultimate moment where you were like, fuck it, this could actually work? Like, is there anything in particular that stands out to you in regards to it?
You get inspiration from everywhere, right? And I had inspiration from my dad as the kind of business head in the family, and he seeing his career and learning from him, and him saying stuff to me like, don't miss the internet. The internet's going to be the next biggest thing, from when I was young, because he missed the mobile phone era. And then I've had inspiration from him saying stuff like, you don't want a 9 to 5. Look at what the shit that me and your mum have gone through. And I saw my mum struggle her way through it as like a legal secretary, work fucking hard, but get like a lot of stress off the back of it traveling into London. So I saw them working hard. So you're inspired by your parents a lot, and you want to kind of make them proud once you get that hunger, which I got. I got that hunger when they lost their house, you know, that 2008 time, just after I got kicked out of school. It was that crock pot of like pressure for me. All right, parents aren't doing well now. I've been kicked out of school. Unless I do something with my life, we might be pretty fucked. So that was where that hunger come from. But yeah, so inspiration from the parents, inspiration from the hip hop era, and ultimately it was from 2 books that I could pinpoint. One called the Book of Entrepreneur's Wisdom. It said the best businesses don't ever get off the ground, so just start. It's also the Nike slogan, just do it. It's all about just starting. We had this chat before. Don't wait, because most businesses don't get off the ground. They don't execute. And the other part of the other book was Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour work week.
That's a banker, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone knows the score of Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, I read that when it came out, man. I read that like when that book came out, and I love what Tim Ferriss had to say. And his kind of message was, try and set something up for a low cost, low effort, and then use freelancers to try and help you. And I was working full time, so I needed that help. And that was what I did. I saved 10 grand selling trainers, selling stuff on eBay, commissions from work, and was reading a lot, getting inspiration. And I just started. I just did it. And it started working.
So when you saved that 10 grand, was that within the time period you're jumping from job to job?
No, so I found a job that I actually liked in recruitment, and I stuck with that for a year and a half. And shout out Ben, who's still my pal to this day, who run that company, and Jim, who run that company. They were great mentors, great leaders. They led with heart. And it's something that I've took into this business, of the way that they led. And stuff that I learned from my dad as well, about how you treat people, because a lot of businesses that I worked in did not treat people like that. Old school, traditional, lead with fear. You will follow my order. I'm the boss, you do what we say. Can't lead like that.
That's
it's
just not how the world is now, unfortunately.
It's not.
It's actually not.
Bullshit as well.
It should never have been like that, because any good business relationship is a partnership, whether it's the most junior person that's just got in your business or the most senior person that's been around the block. It's always a partnership. It's about what they want and what we want, and how do we work together to achieve both.
Mate, it's the only way it should be. Like it's just like, it's logical. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it's any other way, then someone's going to have like a distaste in their mouth, and if that happens, then they're not going to work as hard for you.
And also they feel like they might not be able to express themselves in their jobs, because they're like, they're living in fear. They're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that, because like they're going to say that, or he's going to say this.
Yeah, and we've experienced a bit of that, and we've had to change the way we've led as well. We've realised that perhaps people aren't saying as much, so you have to look at yourself and be like, what is it that we're doing that mean that people are holding back? And so you're constantly trying to amend how your leadership style affects other people. And the old school method is just like, I lead in the way that I want, and you're going to listen. But ultimately, staff retention is a lot lower when you lead like that. And our staff retention is 3 times higher than the industry average generally. And
why is that? Because of exactly what you just said.
People right. You know, I want people to walk away from their day and be like, I had a good day. People care about me in the office, and I can come into tomorrow and be happy, and not feel like I'm doing this for the wrong reasons. Yeah,
mate, I rate that, and I think that like the proof's in the pudding. So 3 times the retention rate says that, you know, this way of managing is a better fit for everyone involved, right? So obviously you launched the WordPress site. Does it get initial traction?
it didn't actually get the traction that I wanted for a number of months. And this is a story of, it sounds cliche, but I was almost ready to quit at 9 months. I'm working full time in recruitment. I'm hitting my targets, luckily. So Ben and Jim are off my case. And just because I'm hitting targets, I can do a bit in my lunchtime that then rolls over it past lunchtime. And they're coming round looking at the screen sometimes being like, and I'm switching alt tab, you know, you're not seeing what's on my screen. I'm sitting here, but in this position, so you can't see my screen.
Yeah, nice, well played.
Yeah. Why have you put me in this seat today? You know, like shit like that, right? And then I'm doing it in the evenings. I said to the lady I was with at the time, I'm going to be working at this. I'm not going on holiday. I'm not going to be buying a lot of stuff. I'm going to come home every night and I'm going to work. And that's exactly what I did.
When you say it didn't gain the traction, what does that specifically look like?
I was trying to get stuff to rank number 1 in Google. I was posting stuff on Twitter every day, working with a freelance writer and a freelance developer to help me whilst I worked. So there was some outgoings associated with the business. I was still making a commission at work, and we couldn't get stuff to rank in Google. It just wasn't getting there. And there was a lot of effort going into it. A lot of tireless nights, I was missing my training sessions. It was just all in, like working at work, full-time recruitment, working on the business. Not drinking as well for 18 months in that first period. 6 months before I started it, and then another year after I started it. So it got to the point where I just felt like I couldn't do it anymore. I was 24 at the time, and I hadn't built the mindset that I've got today to understand that you're just doing stuff one day at a time. It was overwhelming for me at the time. I didn't see how I could continue doing that for another year. But ultimately, all we've got is this moment. And if you think about what I've got to do for the next year, that's always overwhelming. But if you just think about I need to do these things today to be successful, that's easy. Everyone can do things one day at a time. But I didn't realise that at the time. So I was getting very overwhelmed, thinking I can't keep working full time and I can't keep running this at the same time. But then we got a number 1 ranking for the triple black Karachi. And we were number 1 for the biggest shoe of the time.
Triple black Karachis, yeah. I remember those.
Triple black Karachi. And we made like thousands in a day, like hundreds and hundreds of orders via JD Sports. JD Sports were like, what is going on? How has he done this? So we were number 1. I think we were above JD Sports in Google.
Sick.
And that was the validation. But I was close to giving up at that point. So yeah, we hadn't made much money in that first 9 months. We were getting people interested. It was definitely working to some extent, but we just hadn't really made any money. So,
and the business concept at that point was basically driving traffic to these websites. And then had you at that point already negotiated like an affiliate price or like
affiliate commission? Yeah,
affiliate commission. Sorry.
After around 6 months.
Okay.
So if you're going to set up an affiliate scheme, or partner with someone on an affiliate basis, you've got to have a good business first. You've got to have a good content business or an account. They don't just want to sign you up until you've got an established business. But that makes it hard because it means you kind of have to run it before you can sign up. So it costs you a fair bit of money. They're a bit more lenient now, some of them. But at the time it was, you need to have a good business. So it's 6 months in when we started signing up to the affiliate schemes.
Can you remember the first deal you signed?
I think it was with JD Sports.
That's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember the day we nearly lost JD Sports as an affiliate after around 2 years. And so after I left recruitment...
So at that point, did you decide to go all in on the business?
Yeah. After about a year and 4 months, I left recruitment.
Tell us about the moment that you decided to do that, though, because it's quite a big moment, obviously, in your life.
It was a big moment. It wasn't that big for me because I was just like, I know this is going to happen. This is always going to work. I was always delusionally optimistic. And I say that because then I was delusionally optimistic. Now I'm optimistic with realism and a bit of pessimism. And I say those 3 things at the same time. People are like, how can you be all 3? You have to be all 3. You have to know when to be ultra optimistic and who to be like that with. You have to know how to be realistic and objective, truly, with your numbers. And you have to know when to be pessimistic to protect your future and to understand the risks. You have to be all 3. But at the time, all I was delusionally optimistic. So I was like, I had bought myself a car, an Audi A5. It's not a serious car, but it was a nice car. It probably cost a few hundred, $300-400 a month at the time. And I'm like, I've just bought the car, and I'm said to my parents, I'm living at home with them. I'm leaving my job. My parents still didn't believe we were making money with the website and that people were actually enjoying the website, right? And I'm like, you've seen that things are going well. Look at the Twitter followers, look at the Facebook followers, look at the #1 ranking. They're like, they just couldn't believe it. And I love that old school shock of the internet's working. My parents saw it happen right in front of their eyes. And this is going to be the same thing with AI now, where we keep referencing it. But eventually people that are doubters are going to be like, oh my God, it's happening. And that's what my parents were like. They're like, you're actually making money online and you're actually getting an audience. It's insane. So yeah, they weren't happy because I had the car. And they were like, how are you going to pay for the car? How are you going to pay rent into the house? I was paying more rent into the house. My outgoings were probably like £1,000 at the time. I was like, I've got this, don't worry. I'm good. And I did have this, and we carried on, and it was fine. But 2 years in, we nearly lost JD Sports.
Tell us about it.
And that was a moment where I lost my shit that day. I remember running downstairs, and I said, Mum, it's all over. Yeah, it's over.
Been
it's
there,
gone,
mate.
Yeah,
It's the worst.
And like the feeling, the drop in my stomach, and all these experiences make you stronger ultimately. Because I've had moments of stress like that since. You feel the same thing, you know what that feels like, and you know how to dismiss it, accept it, and move on and carry on as normal. But at the time, I was rocked. Yeah, for whatever reason, we had promoted a launch too early, and we had done it a few times. And I'll say it now, like, I thought I was getting the edge on other competitors. We used to drop stuff early. We used to be like, if we could get that link out before anyone else,
Of course.
the audience would love us firstly, and we'd make money off the back of it. Great, win-win. Not for JD. They were like, you shouldn't have pushed that before a certain time. So we did a few cheeky things like that back in the day. Well, I think we did it a third time, 3 strikes and you're out. JD, you're like, yep, you're getting kicked off the affiliate program. Mum, it's over. It's over. I've ruined it. I remember just looking out the window like, oh, it's like 2 years, I'm going to have to go back to work. But ultimately, we still had a good audience and a business and people that wanted stuff. It's just one partner. But it's funny how you can think at the time, isn't it?
So did you negotiate that deal and manage to stay on the platform with them?
Yeah, and negotiated it. We turned it around. And after a lot of conversations, and it was scary for a period of time after, because it was like if we made one more mistake or one of our freelancers posted something early, then we could have got kicked off. And do you know what was going on at the time? It was other people grassing us up.
Doesn't surprise me, mate.
What, as in competitors or?
Competitors, yeah.
Right.
People that didn't like the success that we were having. Because I'm like ultra obsessive and like crazy, right? A bit geeky on the computer. I was getting links out first. People were like Sole Suppliers first. So we were winning.
Yeah.
Competitors didn't like that. I'm like, you guys are slow. You need to speed up. It's not my fault. They hated on that at the time.
For sure. And like from their perspective, they've probably got some new kid on the block who's probably first to market from what you've said. He's quite innovative. He's getting steam. He's getting traction. Probably try to close this down quickly.
That was what was going on. Yeah. People were complaining to Nike at the time. People, when we had the Nike partnership, people would try and get us kicked off of the Nike program for doing certain things. People would actively say, other partners, what we heard was they should get a lower commission because we've been around longer, other people would say.
It's just jealousy, isn't it?
You know, stuff like that. Like really catty behaviour. This goes on in all industries, I now know.
For sure. But at the time, you know, you don't know what you don't know, right? So obviously, you know, with that, 2 years in, the business is going in the right direction. What happens next in terms of the actual like development of the business?
Yeah, so after I left my job, and I'm sure there's people that have experienced this, I thought I was living the dream. I was working from home with a team of freelancers. We were making good money and I was growing the Facebook, Twitter audiences and getting #1 rankings in Google. I'm like, yes, this is what I've wanted all along, right? I'm living the dream. I don't need to do anything. I don't want to go back to an office. I've been in an office 5 days a week. So like my level of ambition was here at the time. I thought we was going to keep making money like that forever and we were going to keep growing like that forever with a smaller team. But then I start working with Dan, my best friend of many years. And we've known each other since we were small little kids, right? And Dan's like, I think we should get an office. My dad's like, no, you don't get an office. Overheads. Old school mentality. But I'm like, yeah, we'll get an office.
How,
We'll
just
run
to
with it.
pull back, obviously you bring Dan on board to the business. How does that come about? And I guess like what does he bring in terms of like complementary value to the business at that point?
Yeah, Dan, if you're watching this, nothing. Okay?
Class.
Not that he would watch it, I don't think. 'Cause he's known me too long. He's like, the last thing I want to see is you talk for an hour and a half, right? We got that brotherly relationship. It's like the banter's strong.
Yeah.
And he'll rip me like, he's like, you think I'm watching one of your podcasts? Fuck you. In a nice way, right? But yeah, he brought the creative angle. He was signed to Virgin Records at the time, producing music. It was really a tough game for him, even though he's a great producer. Very creative. And I was kind of like creative in a different way, but more business minded. So we just complemented each other in that way.
Oh, nice.
And I always break the rules of like, don't work with friends. You know, I work with someone else called Pip as well. He's one of our developers. He's absolutely phenomenal. The stuff he's done here is great. His passion for learning. If you've got respect and trust with someone, you can work with them all day long as a friend.
Cheers.
So that's what I did with Dan.
I mean, we found that as well, haven't we? Because we're best friends as well doing this. This is like, I know it's not work, but it's sort of work. But
project.
Loads of people said at the start, like, be careful working with friends. And we're just like we're just best mates. We understand each other so well. It turns into, for me, like a no-brainer. Because like you understand each other's skill sets, you understand each other's strengths and weaknesses. And you can like work with that because we've known each other for so long. Whereas like maybe if you're bringing someone on board that you don't really know, you've got that teething period of so many.
It takes longer.
But at the same time, I also see it on the flip side. Like, I've had a business before and we've had like friends involved and stuff like that. And one of my business partners became one of my friends. And like it does throw a different dynamic in the relationship. Sure. Because like the relationship isn't just the relationship anymore. It's the project and the relationship.
Yeah.
And then like before you know it, the conversation is primarily around the project. And like we've had it with the podcast where sometimes I'm like, fuck it, mate, let's go to the arcade. Let's just go and have a bit of fun.
Yeah, let's just do something else.
Let's go and do something else and not think about it.
But I think what you said, George, it tailors back to the trust. Like if you trust a friend,
True.
It's everything. But like if you're going in with someone that there's a slight bit of distrust, that's where the problems that I find anyway.
Yeah, or it's got to be a friend that's prepared to grow and
Alignment.
wants growth.
Yeah.
Same goals,
Yeah.
same vision.
Yeah, someone that's got some level of self-awareness.
For sure.
Because if you it can be with anyone. Like my biggest like dislike is someone that's not self-aware enough to clock their own behaviours to try and improve them. Someone that needs constant coaching on, do you know how you handled that situation?
Yeah.
Do you know when you said those words, how it made that person feel? Do you see that from a third person perspective? Or am I going to have to keep coaching you on that? Because that's dangerous. Like those sort of people can blindly do things that they don't see the effect they're having. So yeah, Dan's had a lot of self-awareness from early. And we always have these kind of conversations about things, about our perspectives and about how we're interacting. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm perfect here, right?
No,
Dan pulls me up all the time. He says things all the time. Can't get me all the time. But Dan will say, you know, your energy was a bit off in that meeting. He's like, you know, that could have affected the team in this way and it might not have got the best ideas out. So that's why having that relationship with someone, and you should cultivate this with normal staff members, not just friend staff members, but that is a benefit as well. They can be a lot more candid with you and know there's going to be no problem.
That's what you want, really.
Yeah.
When like if you go into a meeting and you're off energy and you've given off the wrong vibe to everyone in there, you need someone to say like, you were off there, mate, rather than like, oh, amazing, well done, great meeting.
Yeah.
You don't want yes men around you.
You don't want yes men.
Yes men are the worst. But obviously, mate, let's pull back. So you boys decide to get the office in the end. How does it roll out from there?
We got our first office in Woolwich, South East London. Shout out Woolwich if anyone knows it, because I grew up in Abbey Wood when I was younger, which is next to Woolwich, and they're classically known as not the best places around London, Woolwich, Thamesmead, Abbey Wood, and that's fine. But Woolwich was up and coming, so we got the office there. And we outgrew 4 offices in the first 2 years.
Huge.
Yeah, so the office move was correct because we managed to grow a team in-house. We started getting more ideas. When you're around good people in the office, you hear things, you see things, you get the atmosphere builds, the energy builds. There's an unspoken energy in a room of people that are all motivated, and you can't capture that on Slack and Teams. So anyone that says offices are gone for good, I guarantee that most of your businesses will not have as good culture as a business that has some degree of office culture. it's necessary to build culture. So for us, it was everything. It helped us create more content. It helped us come up with more ideas. It helped us hear things.
Do you think you can pinpoint the growth so quickly to just the office culture at that moment?
I think so, yeah. Everyone getting in every day and being in the hustle.
The synergy, isn't it?
It's what we were saying earlier about like that camaraderie and competitive spirit that you feed off of each other. It's very hard to do that on Slack. It's very hard to do that on Teams or Zoom.
Mate, I absolutely hate it. The whole like, I've just come out of a business and they have Workplace. I've never used
Facebook Workplace.
Workplace. I've never used it before. But like the interpretation of certain messages, I'm like, are they being passive aggressive to me? Oh. I'm thinking like, if I go over there, are you going to talk to me like that? No chance. Yeah. So like, I would just go and talk to people, and it, if anything, it wasn't that they were being passive aggressive. It was just my interpretation of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, this communication is so limited in terms of like the emotion associated with the text, and like it can be interpreted like in the wrong ways or the right ways, but like it's not the same as having a conversation with someone.
Yeah, that's the biggest insight that I find. Yeah, you miss the emotion in text messages, and you need to understand the person before you can truly understand what they meant in text.
Yeah, like
some people, not everyone communicates in a perfect way.
Someone give me a full stop, I'm like, are they being shy?
Exactly. Yeah, you give me 2 full stops. What the fuck? Yeah, I'm with you.
Do you know what I mean?
It's like I'm saying, did you mean that full stop? Then we're having a conversation about a full stop. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
let's get on a Zoom now. Did you mean that full stop? What the fuck?
The worst part about Workplace is you can like a comment or like put an emotion or like an emoji to a comment.
Likes, I bet you get.
So like people are snide liking stuff out, and you're just like, do you mean that? Like, there's no way you mean that, like, mate.
Yeah, we do the emojis on Slack as well. But yeah, I think it's just this big push to try and get everyone working from home and kind of disconnected. So the biggest thing for happiness is connection with others. If you are connected with other like-minded people, and like-minded in whatever way, that could be training, your values, your family culture, whatever it is, then you're going to feel happier. Some of the most unhappy people are some of the most disconnected people. They're traditionally people that are alone at home. They don't have anyone around them. So connection is like, it builds the fabric of society. So when you hear that the establishment are pushing full remote work from home, trust me, that's going to have an effect, because that's not how humans function naturally. It's just obvious. And anyone that can't see that, what are we missing here?
The prime example is COVID. Like no one allowed to leave their house. Like that was the prime example. And
that
like,
was the test.
That was the test. And obviously you had the whole mental health thing. Like it exploded because people were really struggling because they couldn't get...
I think the test failed.
Yeah. Well, I completely agree with you, but they couldn't get the human connection.
100%. And also like, it's like relationships are what life is about.
That's it.
Like, have you seen that TED Talk specifically on like, I think it's like the longest study in human history in relation to what makes people happy. And basically it's like a 75...
They did it with 70-year-olds, right? And they every year or every 5 years they spoke to them and asked them the same kind of things.
Yeah, and
is that
I think it was over like a 75-year period, so their full life, and like what basically cultivated a successful life. And essentially like the leading factor in that was the health of their relationships. And I think like when I'm rowing, so I've had a row with my mum in the past, my mum's easily the closest person to me. When I've had a row with her, I feel uncentered for like the next week or two if we're not talking. And I'm like, that has a direct correlation on my mood.
And is that because you raised your voice or you said stuff that you didn't mean, right?
Exactly that.
Yeah. And the reason I asked that is because I've found that if you're in an argument, the best thing that you can do is not raise your voice or get out of character. Because the only person that's going to be uncentered is you, and thinking about that for hours after. Road rage is the most destructive thing for you, not for the other person. The other person that gets shouted at forgets about it probably after. Whoever shouts the loudest and uses the most aggression and loses their mind is the one that thinks about it for the longest. So as long as you remember that, you always can remember to just...
And that's exactly what you were saying about earlier about energy, right? So like whoever transfers the most energy is going to be the most depleted in terms of the energy reserves. Like, so if you are getting super angry, and mate, I fall victim to it a lot, right? But it's like the repercussions of that I'm consciously thinking about, not the other person, unless I've upset them a little bit, which does happen sometimes.
Yeah, I like the thing of, if you're being your best self, or if you're almost at your best self, you're much easier able to help others. if you're pissed off about how you feel, how you slept, what you've ate, how you haven't trained, how can you be there for anyone else?
It's true.
So as a leader, you need to be your best self, or at least trying to do it most of the time. I mean, I can say all the time, but it's unfeasible. It's not feasible for most people. But most of the time, if you can, you're going to be a good leader. You're going to walk into the office with a kick in your step. People are going to sense that. They're going to see your body language, your expressions, the way you look, conduct yourself, dress, and they're going to feed off of that. They're going to be like, I'm going to groom myself better tomorrow. I'm going to try and exercise to make myself feel better. I'm going to make a healthier choice at lunch. This isn't me saying they should do it, but it's me just living an example of what that looks like to hopefully help others to make the right decisions.
100%.
It's not preaching.
No, it's influence.
Yeah.
And that is what leadership is, right? Leadership, in a nutshell, is the ability to lead others.
Yeah.
So
and do you know what I'll say as well? If someone doesn't want to do those things, just because I live my life in that way to be happy, it doesn't mean that's going to be the same for everybody.
For sure.
And there's people that I know that buck those trends a lot, and they will do things differently. They'll eat in a certain way. They'll exercise completely differently. They might not exercise much at all. And are they happy? Yeah. Some of them are. Absolutely. Because they've accepted their life in that manner and they're doing other things to be happy. I think the problem really comes is when it's that resistance of the gap in your head of what you want to be and what you're not. And that's where the problem comes for most people.
But we've all got that problem, right? Because we're all trying to chase our future self and try and be, something that we're currently not, right? In terms of like improving ourselves or reaching that person. I can't remember, is it Michael, the actor? I can't remember what he says, but I can't remember his name, sorry, but what he says is like, he's only chasing himself in 10 years. He's not chasing anyone else. He's not competing. He's just chasing the best version of him. Yeah. And like, if you actually live by that, like that makes complete sense, right? Obviously, in terms of the business, you boys start, I guess, gaining some serious traction, right? In terms of the office, you outgrow 4 offices in 2 years. How do things develop in terms of the business at that point?
Yeah, so by that point, we're generating like millions in revenue for brands like Nike, Adidas, JD Sports, Foot Locker, etc. So we're getting hundreds of thousands of followers across social at that point, and like by year 3, we're absolutely flying as a business. And Sole Supplier's got cement. It's got cement. It's got authority in the UK for letting you know what are the latest and greatest trainers and all of the places you can buy. At the same time, I'm on the content, doing unboxings, shouting my mouth off, talking shit about trainers and saying certain things that I probably shouldn't at the time. Just saying wild stuff that make people think like, what the fuck? What is wrong with this guy?
Is that the first time you started making content independently?
Yeah.
How did that feel?
So that face to brand linked the Sole Supplier in people's minds. And I look back and I realise how important it is. And we spoke about Ben from Lux Collective at the time. Before he built Lux Collective, used to see me present for a number of years. And he was inspired by all of the content we were putting out, as well as people like Gary V. And just like, he's like, I can do that, but for luxury products. And we had loads of voice notes back to back, me and Ben. And for a number of years, I got off content. He built Lux Collective. And then just recently he came to the office. He actually messaged me. He said, George, look, I've built this now, and I've linked it together. I was like, shit, it's Ben that I had all those chats with, and you built Lux.
That's unreal, mate. The ripple effect.
The ripple effect.
You producing content has then led to him taking inspiration to producing a brand.
Part of that inspiration.
It's amazing.
As well as many other things. And his brand is so successful and so good. And he came to the office, and we've struck up a great friendship now. But he said to me, you need to get back on the content. Why have you not been doing it for 2 years? And I mean, he's getting tens of millions of views across TikTok and YouTube. And he's the perfect case study of why content is important. And I just took all of his words to heart, and I've been getting back on the content again recently, and I don't know why I ever stopped doing it. I thought that now I'm getting more people in the business and we're growing really fast and we've got all these brands to service that I need to run the business. I can't be on content. We'll get someone else to do that. But that's a fallacy. I'm the person that was the founder, that was the passion, that I'm not leaving the business. I should be on the content. Gary V's got a multi-million-pound business. He's doing more content than ever. You need to be doing the content. Nick Bear that we spoke about, great content.
Yeah, he's got amazing content.
You know?
How did you feel though internally starting out creating content? Because it's it's not for everybody, is it?
Oh, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is hard. I listened to my own voice when we first started the podcast. I'm like, I didn't sound like that, surely. Like,
You changed your voice slowly. And now I speak like this.
But like, how did you feel? Obviously in front of camera and whatnot.
I said to Dan, I live a private life. I don't want to do content. And Dan was like, you waffle loads in real life, so you can do content. He was like, kind of thought of me as the class clown still in that mindset. He didn't, because he had a lot of respect for me in that sense. But he was kind of like, you've always been one to be loud and confident and shout. So why can't you do content? But when the camera was on, I was like, I don't know how to act normally. A lot of people just don't know how to act their normal selves. It takes time to get comfortable being normal on camera.
I had that. I had
Yeah?
exactly the same. Yeah. Yeah, he's laughing, but I used to have like an actual physical reaction. So I would go red and be like, go bright red.
Okay.
And I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
And Jack used to be like, mate, it's a camera. Like, it's just like, it's nothing. It's literally just a camera. But I had the same.
your eyebrows used to raise.
Yeah.
Do you remember? He'd be like this.
Yeah.
I had exactly the same. I used to be like, this is like, I don't know why I felt weird, but internally it was like, whoa, I used to get a bit stiff. Obviously, like with
I'm
reps,
with you.
with reps and whatnot, it gets better. But like, I had the same thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I used to do the same. It started on kind of like Snapchat, and then we were doing Instagram and YouTube. But yeah, I don't know why I stopped that, and that's a big failing of mine over the last 8-9 years in business. Is I should never have got off the content. The brand would have been much further now and more significant if I had stayed on it.
But at the same time,
We've also grown.
it's hindsight,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And also that time you were putting into content, you may have been able to build out the operations of the business or whatever else was required. So, you know, we it sounds cringy, mate, but I genuinely believe everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, you might have needed a break for your own personal self. Like, you know, obviously in terms of the growth of the business and whatnot, it seems like it probably fit for that time from what you said today.
Yeah, it did. But I can honestly say to you that if you have a business, you have stuff to talk about, you need to be creating content today. There are more people creating content now than ever. It is becoming more competitive. So if you can create content in the right way, efficiently, and the ultimate thing is just people just don't start again because they want to be perfect. And we had this discussion before, right? It's just like, just put your message out there. And I still struggle with this again now. And I remember it takes me back to when I first started creating. It's like I overthink too much. I'm like, no, that looks weird in the shot, or why does it look like that? There's not enough light in there. It's like, no, just get the message out. Yeah. A lot of the time it's content over quality.
Distribution, right?
Yeah, it's just getting the message out. It's what is in the content.
And mate, you know, you don't need me to say this, but like, you're built for it. And I know he's obviously said it beforehand, but like, it makes sense for you to do that. But mate, obviously to pull back on the business, right? So we've talked a lot today about how the business grew, and there were a lot of good times, right? In terms of development of the business model, the business structure, revenues, partnerships. But were there any times during that process and build up where there were some difficult times?
Yeah, difficult times with people we hired. Not with the people themselves, but the way we were hiring. I think it can be like very easy to, when you start doing well, go on a flurry of hires and not put too much thought into the hires. Because I was an organic business person, right? Which means I didn't go to uni, I didn't get an MBA, I didn't have any formal business training. If you go and get some formal training, they'll teach you more about hiring and how to produce a business case for that hire. But what I'd do is I'd be like, there's an opportunity there. Hire someone. Yeah, that looks good. Hire someone. And me and Dan would just be raggo hiring, which caused problems because it means that people didn't know where their progression was going. People didn't understand exactly how they created value in the business. And if something stopped working, we might have to move them onto something else. So the biggest thing when you're growing a company is like hiring people in the right way, producing a business case so you know what they are doing in the business. Because ultimately they want to know that what they're doing to feel important, right? You shouldn't just be hiring someone on a whim because their life's going to be harder, and then making sure that they know where they're progressing, how their salary can go up, how they can learn more. And that was the biggest thing we did. And also, has to be said, how to let someone go if it's not working. Something that a lot of people struggle with.
Did you struggle with that?
Struggled with it. Dan struggled with it. Dan's more of a ruthless person than me in his nature. Yeah.
It's because you guys care, though, isn't it?
Mm.
That's kind of like the crutch to it.
Yeah, I mean, well, Taz will say I've got low empathy, but that is generally, yeah, I care. Maybe that's just me and Taz, you know.
I think all our missuses would say that.
Yeah. So I've hurt myself. I'm like, you're fine.
Standard, mate.
At what point do you think that you feel like you have to let somebody go? Like, is there a moment where you think,
Well, I
it's
think
not working?
I think when you first understand that it's not working and you're new to that, there's always a time lag of your thought and how you handle it and when you do it. Because for most people, unless you're an absolutely savage, like you're gonna feel really bad for that person, and you should. Hopefully, every good leader should have that heart of like, I'm gonna have to let someone go, which is gonna be bad for their future. But there's a big delay in how long it takes you to do it and how you go about it. So the biggest thing I've learned is if that is gonna happen, you have to be giving someone coaching and warning, a lot of it, before you make that decision. They have to know 100% that what they need to do to improve, how we're going to help them, and if they don't do those things, where it could go, what the next steps look like. So there's no surprise. Because the worst thing is like someone being surprised by it. Even though they know they're not doing too well, most people are still holding on to hope that they're going to stick around. But ultimately, if we're building a company, we want everyone else to be happy. We have to be mindful that if someone's not working, they're affecting not just the business, but other people around them, and they're holding themselves back.
For sure. And that's even like the penultimate decision, the penultimate variable in the decision, right? Like, it's their future that you're holding them back from. If they're not right in the company and you know they're not a good fit and you know there's not the progression for them, like, it's best they go and take a punt at something else.
This is it. We hire based on values, which is very important. My number one is just integrity. The questions I'm asking are looking for integrity. I'll ask questions like, for anyone watching this, is an insight into it, because it's important. Like, so I will ask, tell me about a time where you had a disagreement with your manager and how you handled it. So I've straight away assumed that they had a disagreement with their manager, because hopefully everyone has over the years. Probably, maybe I was just argumentative with mine, like I explained before, but probably everyone has. But I haven't asked them, are you an honest person? Which sounds like a mad question, but some people ask that. They're like, are you honest? Someone's like, yes, obviously I'm honest. But you have to ask questions that give you an insight into multiple behaviours at once around your values. So that's a good one. And then another one could be like, tell me about a time where you had to learn something that you found really difficult and how you went about it. Or tell me about a time where you've had a challenge at work and what you did to solve it. Yeah, so there's a lot you can assess from those types of open questions that are behavioural questions and examples. You have to give a specific example. You can say, give me another example. So they're deep questions to ask, but it's all about that in the first stage, is values. Because if someone comes in here and they lack in integrity and openness and they're not collaborative, we fucked up. Because everyone else has got those values.
And you're hiring them, right? So like, that's your decision to actually bring them on board. So if anyone's mistake, you know, it's yours in the initial stages, but we all make those mistakes because we get people wrong, right? And that's normal. But obviously the culture of the business has, you know, cultivated to where it is today in terms of the core values you just mentioned. But like, it must have been a process to get there.
Someone asked me this the other day. It's like, did you deliberately try and build good culture? When I said to someone, our staff retention's like 3 times higher than normal. Someone was like, well, how did you build a good culture? Well, I now realise that good culture comes as a result of good people. So if you hire based on the right values, with the honesty and integrity as a number one, because that encapsulates a lot, doesn't it? Like, when you're honest, you've got integrity, you're able to be constructive with your feedback. You're open to receiving feedback. You collaborate well with people. You're a team player. It all comes down to that honesty and integrity thing, true honesty and integrity. So it then builds itself, because if someone coming into the office like that and they're treating each other right, it just has a ripple effect, like you said before. Yeah. So then you just have to work a lot less. If you're having to build culture, there's something wrong with the people.
Or the leadership, right?
Or the leaders, so the people.
Yeah. Because it starts at the top and just drips down, doesn't it?
It does. And we've had to have conversations with people in leadership about how they're handling situations, about how they might be talking about other team members over the years, about All of these things, that's when it comes to like fine tuning. I wouldn't say building, because building starts with the foundations, and foundations are your good people. But then it's like amending little things. It's like fine tuning the culture.
Yeah.
Bits of coaching here or there. That's all you should have to do, really.
For sure, mate. I'm completely with you. And like, you know, we can all sit here and say like, there's nothing I value less than a slimy person or someone who doesn't lead with integrity, doesn't have honesty at the forefront of everything they do.
Also, it only takes one bad egg as well.
Yeah, mate. And it spreads, doesn't it? Like poison.
It literally does. So you could have like, you know, like 100 employees or however much, even like 10 employees. And if you just have one bad one, like Jack said, that poison could just spread. And it's,
I didn't see that before either. I think a lot of people underestimate the power of a toxic person. Like, because they'll be saying stuff to try and sow doubt in other people's minds.
And they might not even be doing it maliciously.
Exactly. That is the biggest understanding. We like in people in day-to-day life, that's not the real them. That's coming from something within them that they don't probably like about themselves. They are being toxic for a reason that's unconscious, right? So you can try and help them and coach them, but ultimately you can't control what goes on outside of people's lives, outside the office. So like, you know, I've gone out over the years, I've partied. I know the effect that has on my work life. I know the effect that has on my energy. If someone's going out partying a lot and they come in on a Monday and they're fine and they're treating people well, great, go out and party, do what you want. But if I can see that's having an effect on how your energy levels are affecting other people, then I'm going to say, like, look, I've noticed your energy levels are like this, but what I can't really do is say, stop going out partying. I can only make suggestions around a lifestyle that might suit and it comes down to what that person wants. At that time in their life, they might want to party hard and they might see job as a secondary thing. I've been through that when I was younger. I didn't want to work as a primary focus. I didn't want to do well at work. I'm sure we've all experienced this. There was periods where I was just like, I'm just working to get a bit of money in so I can live my life outside of work. Yeah. And then some people get a switch where they're like, if I go all in on work, I can create something great and get a byproduct of extra money and feeling good. So, but some people don't have that thought and don't want that.
For sure. Mate, it's obviously super interesting to hear like how you've got to this stage, but obviously in terms of the business growth, how does it sort of take off after like getting those big partnerships? Like how does it like branch out and how do you sort of increase the value proposition in terms of like what you're offering?
Yeah, so the biggest way we differentiated ourselves from other people at the time, a lot of people were talking about shoes online. We were talking about a lot more shoes that were great general releases that you could buy. Not just all the sellout ones, but good ones that were selling well. Like the best Air Forces, the best Huaraches. So helping like the general man on the street find great shoes. That was kind of our mission. Not just helping all the sneakerheads secure the sellout pairs. It was like, how does, Joe from Surrey, how does John from Wembley get this shoe, this Air Force One that he just wants to wear on his feet? John from Wembley doesn't want the sellout Jordan 4. He might, but he doesn't care that much. So that was how we differentiated, appealing to a more general consumer, which we got a lot of hate for. Again, it's like you're
off the sneakerheads.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's like, why are you making it so commercial? It's like, well, everyone wants trainers.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to be so like, oh, it's just for sneakerheads?
Why does that always happen?
I know.
It happens with music a lot,
exactly.
all the time. Like
speaking to Kev Stewart, who plays for, was on his podcast, and he says it happens in football as well.
Yeah.
Same thing, the gatekeeping. But yeah, and then tech, which is like now more, if you start a business now, you need to use AI. If it's online, your business, if you're not using AI, your business will get left behind. So all of our development team are about to start jumping on more features around AI. So at the time for me, it was all about social media. So using Facebook, Twitter very cleverly to build audiences.
When you say cleverly, like what does that look like specifically?
Back in the day, you could use Twitter bots correctly to like follow people, to like posts, all of that to grow audiences. You could use Facebook bots to do the same, to do auto replies. Some of it was a bit spammy, but actually off the back of it, you just had loads of automations that were working to build your audiences with legit followers. I'm not talking about buying fake followers.
No, you're
That's a
talking
fallacy.
yeah.
I'm talking about using tools that helps you automate things for engagement.
Yeah, like with like the LinkedIn stuff at the moment, it's really big with like LinkedIn Helper and stuff like that to like drive traffic to your posts or your pages and in regards to like whatever you're referencing.
And that was all about the tech as well. It's like tech will help you automate and be more efficient. And we always use tech, whether it was from social media marketing to improving our content writing process to improving how the personalization works on site, how people got reminders. It was always about using tech to differentiate ourselves, and we still are that now.
Mate,
That's why we invest heavily in tech.
Yeah, I absolutely love that because like I don't know the market at all, but like that in itself is the edge, right? It gives you like even more of a value proposition and even more development in regards to what you're already doing.
Yeah, it's just, that's something that's quite unique to us. And the other unique thing is getting people's faces on the camera, like mine at the time, being the face of the brands. When people think of trainers, they think of Sole Supplier, they think of George. And so that's what we're having to build again with the face to camera now. But it's what can you do that other people can't? One of the USPs for a lot of people should be your team. If you can hire a talented team and make them stick together for a long time, you get the edge. Because there's knowledge that you can't, if it's just loads of new people and VC have invested in the company, it's chaos. I see it, I hear it. People are leaving left, right and centre, taking knowledge with them. If you keep a good team together with all the knowledge, that's the power. That's the momentum that you need. Because you don't need to speak to people. That sounds weird. People don't need to speak to each other. They just look at each other.
Yeah,
they
like
know what's
telepathic
next.
Connection.
Yeah.
You know what's going on.
A release comes out, everyone's just like nods. Yep. Everyone, that's it. But when it's like new people, it has to be, can you do this? Can you try this? Have you tried this? Why haven't you done this? Crazy. So I truly think that's a USP if you can keep a good team together.
100%. Mate, I'm completely with you. I've got to ask you, throughout the years, is there one deal in particular that sort of stands out to you as you're like, that was my favourite or best deal for the business?
Not really, because the partnerships are just on. Okay, I'll tell you one. We signed a long-term agreement with one of the biggest brands out there that was an unprecedented agreement at the time. Big shout out to Christian Davies, our head of partnerships, because me and him have worked together since almost day one, around the same time that Dan joined. Christian started as a content writer. He's now our chief head of partnerships, and he's absolutely phenomenal at partnerships as well. He's an unsuspecting salesperson.
Love it. He's
calm, collected, persuasive, disciplined, and he signed one of the most, like an unprecedented deal in our industry, which for anyone that doesn't know affiliate properly, everything I'm talking about is still great for the end user. When I say we signed an unprecedented deal with Nike, ultimately what that means is that Nike just give us a better share of the sale over a longer period of time. That's why it was unprecedented. If it was Nike, if it was Foot Locker, you're looking for a higher share of the sale and a long-term agreement. That's what these partnerships are about. It doesn't mean Nike tell us everything we have to talk about. It doesn't mean Foot Locker are in our ear constantly saying, talk about these products. It doesn't mean ASOS are on the phone every day saying, you must talk about ASOS Direct. It's just about the share of the sale and the length of the agreement. It's up to us to decide. Sole Supplier is an unbiased source. Don't get me wrong, brands do say, can you talk about this? Can you talk about that? And we do. But that's a small percentage of the overall stuff we talk about, because people come to us for authority and the truth. They don't want to be fed a load of shit that the brand has just asked us to do. So that has always been important to me. But yeah, like a long-term partnership with one of these big retailers was one of the most unprecedented moments for us.
But that was a big moment as well.
Yeah, and it's stuck. Yeah.
How do you actually go about trying to secure those partnerships? Do you have like a specific method or?
Christian is the main man behind it. He's working tirelessly to do it. He keeps all of the partners happy. 3 things for good partnerships. Always over-exceeding expectations, because whilst everyone out there in our industry is just delivering, which a lot of them do, they deliver just based on their objectives, we're over-exceeding. We've given some partners sometimes like almost 2 times the value that we promised. And we're able to do that because the team works well. And the second thing is constant updates before they ask. Christian's always in touch with partners, providing them updates more than they ever ask. And whereas we know they have to ask a lot of partners, can you give us a performance update? And they don't. And just being a nice, honest person is the third thing. Like not trying to be a salesman, just being upfront about where we stand, where they stand. And Christian's got all of those elements nailed. And then the team help deliver using the audience. So yeah, partnerships are everything to this business.
Love that, mate. And I guess that kind of brings us like full circle up into like where we're at today with the business. Obviously, we always ask a few questions near the end of the podcast, but what is the next steps for the business? I've got a question as well as a follow-up to that, so I'll leave it until I get the answer to that. But I've got something I really want to ask you about it.
Yeah, so we started as the Sole Supplier, serving people showing them shoes from 40 different retailers, let's say. However many partners, 40 to 60 different partners. How do you get your shoe at retail? And over the last year and a half, we've launched the Sole Market, which is for buyers and sellers. So power sellers and sellers can now come onto the marketplace and sell their stock once they're sold out. And soon to be pre-owned as well. We're going to launch it in the near future. So that's the second part. So if you can't get the shoe at retail, you can now use the marketplace on the Sole Supplier to get it secondary. Yes, it's more expensive. Yes, some people hate resellers, but it's a necessary thing because we need to compete in that space. We've got millions of people using our website and app. Why would we not facilitate the buying and selling of shoes when it's going on out there? So what we've done is we've made it a better experience for buyers. They can get their products quicker. We verify sellers in a unique way using KYC, and we verify products in a different way. We don't do it in hand yet. We've got a tech solution for that, which I won't say too much about. But we've made it quicker for buyers, faster payouts for sellers, and the best customer support in the game, because a lot of these marketplaces have shit customer support. So buyers and sellers are happy. So that's the kind of next stage. And the best thing about it is we own that product. It's not dictated by Nike, Adidas, ASOS, Foot Locker. We own that product. We can keep developing that. No one can take that away from us. So it's a defensibility move as well. So it does two things in one, really.
Mate, that's sick. Like having that IP and also like simultaneously like that revenue like model as well. It just sounds unreal. Obviously it does lead me on to the next question, but like, is there a shoe coming out for yourself one day?
It's our 10-year anniversary next year. We're looking at doing a collaboration with a brand potentially.
Sick.
Yeah, for a collaborated shoe. It's been in talks before.
That's what I thought. Like,
but we just haven't done it.
Yeah.
We've had a few conversations with top tier brands like about this thing, but we just haven't got round to it yet.
That's mad, mate.
It's almost like a nice vanity thing as well, right?
Yeah.
How much does it really do for the overall bottom line? It definitely will cement us more in the audience size, but how temporary is it? I don't know. I mean, it's pretty iconic if you get a collaboration that's a good one as well.
That'd be amazing, mate.
Yeah, because there's some pretty shit ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anyone on your mind for that collaboration?
I'm a Nike man, right? I've always been a Nike man.
That's what I was thinking.
It'd probably be Nike, but New Balance as well. There's been some good New Balance collaborations. I know the team would be up for that. And the team that we've got, man, is just like, I'm pretty sure for some of them that have been here a long time, if we can all weigh in on a collaboration with a brand, they'd absolutely love that, because that's like ultimate validation that we're doing the right things.
Yeah. And it's like a team effort as well, isn't it?
Mm.
I just want to leave on this. Like, we've spoke so much about what's next in the business, but like, what's next for you as just a person?
It's a question that I don't plan too far in the future. I just try and get up every day and be the best I can be, and I'm in a constant battle with that, because there's this book by John C. Maxwell, which is the 25 Laws of Leadership, and the 20 Laws of Personal Growth, two different books. And I really resonated with this because it's what I kind of think. It's like, you can set goals for 6 months or a year, but ultimately, if you get up and you try and be your best every day, you'll probably over-exceed those goals. And it's just too hard to speak that far in the future. No one knows how much momentum you're truly going to get. So the truth is, man, just to make the Sole Supplier the only place you think of when you think of buying trainers, that's the mission in the UK right now. So how do we do that with brand? That's a big mission. That's a long mission. That requires me to get up every day and be my best, work with a good team, make sure they're happy, they're sticking around. and keep training hard. Have a great life with Taz. We train together, like we're going out today, etc. It's like, so making sure my personal relationships are good, my training's on point, and my work is on point. Like if those 3 things are on point, I'm fucking happy.
Yeah, of course.
That's
What
it.
else is there?
And that's all it is to every day. And then the rest is just a bonus. Material shit, great, whatever. Like, but those are the things that are most important.
They're the cores, aren't they? That you've got to get right.
That's the 90%, and then the other 10% is like, what's next? What goals? Might want to buy this, buy that, do this, go there. But ultimately, it's just about nailing those 3 things with consistency.
Any more plans?
That's happiness.
Any more plans for any more endurance events?
So High Rocks 1st of May. We've got Hackney Half Marathon. Might do a Tough Mudder just before that. May might be 3 events, and then the High Rocks in November. Might join you on a half marathon or something at some point as well.
Sick. Yeah. Mate, 100%. And I think we're going to leave it on that today. But obviously, from both of us, we both want to say thank you, mate, for coming on today. Super inspiring story. There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever that you're going to achieve those goals.
For sure.
I think the business, everything you offer in terms of the value proposition is just fucking sick, mate. And mate, we're big fans and we're rooting for you now, for sure.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Cal.
Sal, mate,
Nice
thank
one.
you so much.
Cool, mate.
Cheers.